This is the Mind Dimension podcast. With me today, Dave Kluge from Football Guys. We have an aggressive show sheet. I can't even predict how long this is going to go. We're gonna talk some Brock Bowers. We're gonna talk some Bijan. We're not messing around, man. We're not going super deep with all these guys. We certainly are going to talk about let's say LaQuint Allen. There is going to be some deeper players, but we are also just going to talk studs. We're going to talk studs and duds, pretty much. This is a big studs and duds show with Dave Kluge from Football Guys coming at you. Dave, I just took Brock Bowers at the 104 in a superflex 2X tight end premium dynasty startup. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's the pick that you've got to make there. And I think, the 2X tight end premium, I think, is the big qualifier here. You're not taking Brock Bowers 104 in your standard dynasty league, but Matt, like you know it. You took the guy at 104 for a reason.
We got Brock Bowers. We got Brock Bowers.
What happens when he goes for 180 targets this year? Like how many points a week is Brock Bowers giving you? I mean, in a double tight end premium league, this guy could be giving you 65 point spike weeks. I don't think that's crazy whatsoever.
I did the math, and he should be the 101.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I did the math. I was like, I had a little notepad and a pencil with an eraser. And I was like, okay, so if he has this many, if he has 100 catches, that's actually 200 catches. Wait, so if he has 200 catches, wait, what does this mean? And how old is he? 23? So I was very happy. I was very happy because I was sitting there at the 104. And the thing is, man, I'm such a grinder. I'm such a chiseler that even at the 104, I was like, I don't believe that my league mates know what I know. And so I was actually trying to trade back to the 106 to get him. Ooh, so I had a bunch of offers out, trade back to the 106, 107, fully confident I was going to get him. It would have been heartbreak. Imagine if I had done that and he was picked one pick ahead. Oh my God. So I just said, you know what? I'm here. I'm at the 104. This feels aggressive, but it's just mathematically correct. And that's what I have to do.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's just an absolute freak. Like, we heard Pete Carroll just gushing about him last year, saying that, like, he's one of the best football players he's ever watched. Now, Clint Kubiak in Las Vegas, what's the quote, Matt? I know you know it off the top of your head, like a football god from the heavens or something like that.
He's a football robot sent from heaven. Yes, that's what he said.
Yeah.
I know that by heart because I was so angry when it happened. Right? I was so upset because I was like, listen, hey, man, why don't you be cool, bro? Why don't you try being cool and not like give the game away? We're out here trying to draft as much Brock Bowers as we can, man. This is not helpful to me. All this does is hurt my ability to draft this guy. Stop it, Gary. Stop it.
Gary? Did you just, are you going Gary Kubiak? Is that where you pulled that from?
Yeah, Gary from the, wasn't that Gary?
Clint. Gary is the dad. You've been doing this for a long time.
Oh,
Gary
my
Kubiak.
God, I forgot.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've been doing this for a long, long time. Yeah. Yeah.
Gary, excuse me, Clint. Apologies. They'd be like calling me Jim. Right? Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry. Clint.
I want to totally go off on a tangent here, but like, we and you do this, Matt, like you'll tweet something about drafting or best ball or something, and all these people say like, what are you doing drafting this early? You shouldn't be drafting until at least Labor Day weekend. There's still such an edge in drafting early because just 2-3 weeks ago, Trey McBride was going ahead of Brock Bowers in best ball drafts. And it's just crazy. Like, I don't know why that fixed itself, but to say that like there isn't an edge to drafting early, you could literally get Brock Bowers half a round after somebody else took Trey McBride just a few weeks ago.
I am not going to have any Trey McBride this year. Not sorry. I'm not sorry. I like him. I think he's a good player. Yeah. But if there's all these concerns about Michael Wilson and how his breakout was the most unsustainable breakout of all time, even though he was the top scoring wide receiver for multiple weeks, you can't just roll out of bed and do that. You actually have to be good to do that, but fine. Negative game script, super high pass rate, moon and the stars align. No Marvin Harrison Jr. on the field. The splits, all these. Yes, I get it. Okay. He's probably not going to be the wide receiver 1 any given week this year. Okay. But what about Trey McBride? See, Trey McBride was also enjoying all of that script.
Mm-hmm. And I think the nice thing about McBride is he was actually producing somewhat before Marvin Harrison went down. I mean, you look at the splits from like week 10 onward, Michael Wilson was giving you like 50 yards per game when Marvin Harrison was out there, even injured. Like Marvin Harrison would come back injured and still put a cap on what Michael Wilson was doing. And then Marv would miss a game and then Michael Wilson would go for 120 yards. But you weren't getting that with Trey McBride. He was at least somewhat steady, but I think the problem is like now we're drafting him at last year's cost. What made Trey McBride so great last year was that you can get him in around 4 or 5 year drafts. Now having to pay where you're paying for him, the edge is just completely gone. Like even if he does what he did last year, you're still coming up short of what you paid in drafts.
It's a classic polarized strategy when it comes to tight ends this year. You're either all in on Bowers or you're waiting for a sleeper tight end. This has been the case many times. This was the case with Rob Gronkowski, Gronk or sleeper. This was the case with Kelsey or sleeper. Every couple years you implement the strategy. This is the year for that strategy. You can't draft Brock Bowers early enough. It doesn't even have to be tight end premium necessarily, no matter what format. As long as you're required to play a tight end, you're probably wanting to draft Brock Bowers at any given draft pick. Drafting Brock Bowers is probably a great idea.
And then you talk about it like the great or wait sort of strategy. But what happened all those years when you were talking about like paying up for this guy or waiting? What would happen? You'd have like 1 year where Mark Andrews would like unsustainably pull a 29% target share, and then the next year would say, well, this guy should actually be the tight end 1. Or Sam Laporta would score double-digit touchdowns, and then, well, maybe we should be drafting this guy as the tight end 1. Or Trey McBride comes off of a fluky season, maybe he should be the tight end 1. No, every single year, what people end up doing is just paying for last year's tight end 1 at that price the following season, when the reality is like, yeah, TJ Hawkinson can have this fluky season where he finishes as the tight end 2, but that doesn't mean you draft him as the tight end 2 the next season. And we see this year after year after year after year, and yet it's still happening. People are drafting Trey McBride half a round after Brock Bowers because he was the tight end 1 last year when everything broke favorably for him. I'd rather wait for, I don't know, it's going to be the Dallas Goddards or whoever that you're getting in the middle round where things are going to break right for them this year and hope to draft that guy rather than paying up for last year's that guy.
Yeah, I mean, no Loveland love, Matt, says Wallbang in the chat. No. I mean, Loveland is great, but this is a difficult target share to project. When it's difficult to project, I just like to take the best player in the offense, the guy that's going to offer the most upside, and that happens to be Rome Odunze in that particular offense, and I'm cool with it. The way you can assign super hyper stud status to a tight end and feel comfortable drafting them in the end of the first round, for example, is they have to give you multiple seasons where they are the tight end 1, where they are posting the super elite yards per route run, targets per route run. Okay. Convince me. I have very, very, very high standards, and one season is not enough. One season that also requires a projection in the case of Colson Loveland is not enough for me to, get out over my skis on these tight ends. Most of these guys, like you said, tight end 2 through 8, I typically don't feel very comfortable drafting those guys, but some years the tight end 1 is so undeniable and it's such incredible leverage on the field that just based on position scarcity, you have to just close your eyes and push the button. Yeah, I feel pretty good about it. I feel pretty good about Brock Bowers. The argument isn't like, hey, let's pile a bunch of other tight ends in here and argue about why you should be drafting them high. No. It's Brock Bowers. You need to set a very high standard and say, hey, does this player meet that standard? And in the case of Brock Bowers, he does. Because we have 2 quarterbacks, one Kirk Cousins, which has a history of targeting the tight end. Then you have a rookie in Fernando Mendoza, and all rookies typically on average target the tight end more than veteran quarterback would. It's a very small differential, but there's a slight preference to the tight end there. And then you look at the target competition, and there's no team in the NFL with less target competition, with the exception of the Miami Dolphins, than what you see in Las Vegas. And then you have all of the metrics that Brock Bowers has put up the last 2 years, especially last year, number 2 in air yard share, number 2 in target share, playing on one leg. And at that point, it's like, you got me, right? That's it. You got me, Brock.
So there's a few other mid-tight ends, I should say, that like kind of pique my interest this year. And I don't know how you feel about these guys, but I do find myself drafting, especially in best ball drafts right now. I like Tyler Warren at his cost because he's coming way after Colston Loveland. Like I'm talking like a 3-4 round difference.
Weird.
Especially with Michael Pittman out of the picture. I could see Warren just gobbling up those intermediate targets. Kyle Pitts is another fun one. I know like I'm going to keep holding it down for Kyle Pitts, especially now with a new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, the way that he draws plays up to tight ends. I could see Pitts kind of rolling off. Also, there was the whole MCL thing with Kyle Pitts. I think really zapped his explosiveness. He kind of started to look a little bit more like himself late in the year. And then Sam Laporta is the other one, just because last year in Arizona, the offensive coordinator who made Trey McBride a focal point of the offense, now in Detroit. And I mean, these guys are way, way cheaper. You're not paying Colston Loveland or Trey McBride at cost for them, but I find myself drafting a lot of Tyler Warren, Kyle Pitts, and Sam Laporta are the guys I'm going after this year in the middle rounds.
Yes, Sam Laporta for sure, for a bunch of reasons. I mean, so Laporta, he's able to leverage the fact that there's a lot of continuity there. I do like players that have been good, and there's not a lot of change happening, right? You look at the stability of that particular offense. It's all the same guys coming back. It's the same quarterback, right? And Laporta was good last year, right? Laporta, right? I mean, he wasn't like, he wasn't excellent, but like he was on track to have a Sam Laporta season. In only 9 games, he had 49 targets. So he was looking at improving on his 2024 campaign, not quite being what he was in 2023, but certainly he was on track to put up a good season. I mean, he had 11.9 fantasy points per game, which was a full point per game more than he did the previous year. And now they have the easiest schedule in the league. I like Laporta. I like Tyler Warren a lot. Look at those splits with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones was good last year. And it's one of those things where it's like, I know I can't, I shouldn't, the burn rate on Daniel Jones fantasy gamers has been so high I just can't quite go all the way there and be like, Daniel Jones, amazing. But if I'm going to draft a tight end, then, trying to draft off of the quarterback or what we think is going to be, better than expected quarterback play in best ball, like Jones, Warren, little mini stack to fill out your roster. I like that. I like that a lot. So I would certainly rather have Warren over Loveland based on where they're going in all formats. And I have taken over a bunch of Dynasty orphans. And I've been pleasantly surprised with several teams. I found I had Tyler Warren, and that always makes me happy. And that's allowed me to trade a lot of tight ends and let go of a bunch of tight ends. Like, hey, I have my cornerstone tight end. I'm very in on Oronde Gadsden. I consider Oronde Gadsden still a sleeper, whereas Laporta, Pitts, these players are not sleepers. Right. Certainly Warren's not a sleeper, but I think once you get to Gadsden, then it's like, okay, for whatever reason, because he was a day 3 pick last year, he's just not thought of in even the same tier as a Harold Fannin, certainly not a Warren or a Loveland. And when you think about, okay, what are the ramifications of the 2 tight end sets and having these healthy tackles in Los Angeles, it means that Oronde Gadsden may never have to block a single snap this year. And it's not like they have stud wide receivers on the Chargers. If I'm a coach and I'm designing plays, I'm actually going to split Oronde Gadsden out wide. Think about how they played Pitts a couple of years ago. They played a lot of Pitts at X, and you're going to see a lot of Pitts at X this year, I bet. And I think I could see a lot of Gadsden at X too, because they know what they're going to get when they put Quentin Johnston at X. And so you could absolutely see packages where they're like, you know what, we're going to cross off Quentin Johnston's name, and instead of going 11 personnel, we're going to go 12 personnel, and the guy out wide on the left is actually going to be Gadsden.
And, the Chargers, they didn't really get into that big 12P thing that everybody was doing last year. They were kind of marching to the beat of their own drum. And now I think with them bringing in McDaniel and bringing Alec Ingold with them, we're just going to see even more of that, where they just kind of do, we do see a lot of multiple tight end packages, and I think that that's the assumption that now that they brought in David Njoku, this is another team that's going to be playing out of base 12 personnel, but I don't know if that's really the case. I just see Njoku and Gadsden as two very different types of wide receivers, and I think when they want to go jumbo and they want to run the ball and they want to lean on that power run game, they've got Njoku to do that. When they go out with Gadsden, they can technically be in 11 personnel or 21 personnel, whatever it is, but Gadsden kind of playing as a pure wide receiver, it helps them almost go empty, even though they have a tight end on the field. I don't think we're going to see a lot of Njoku and Gadsden on the field together. They're just such different players, and they can do different things.
We don't know what David Njoku's role is going to be. I love the David Njoku signing because that just makes Oronde Gadsden all the more affordable. That was incredible news. I was loving that because the key signing was Charlie Kolar. Charlie Kolar is the Dawson Knox for this team. Okay. That's the guy they brought in to execute 12 personnel. But when they go 11 personnel, you're right. Gadsden could be on the field as a wide receiver. It's going to be heartbreaking. I mean, if you're Quentin Johnston's family and you're in the stands and you're looking for his number out there, and he's not out there, it's 11 personnel, it's 12 personnel. Where's Johnston? And it's like, hey, man, they brought in all these tight ends, and now they've got Gadsden. If I'm Justin Herbert, I want Gadsden out there. I don't want Johnston out there. I know what I'm getting. It's very frustrating. Gadsden's he's got upside in a way that a lot of tight ends don't, in that he could run a lot of wide receiver routes. I think that could be a good metric for Player Profiler. Like, how many wide receiver routes does a particular tight end run in any given season? I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna look into that.
I do want to pump the brakes, though. I don't think Quentin Johnston is just getting benched this year. I mean, like, he's done enough that I think he's solidified a role on this team. He might not have ever lived up to what we want to see as, like, fantasy and dynasty managers. He hasn't had that 1,400-yard season or anything like that. But I think there's still a very good, valuable role for an NFL team. If you got a guy who can just, like, consistently go out there and give you 700-plus yards, 8 touchdowns, he's done that in back-to-back seasons. I don't think that he's ever going to emerge to be the primary receiver on this offense, but I think his speed, his athleticism does open things up for some of the other people where, yeah, it might be a lot of sacrificial just cardio routes where he's just out there kind of clearing space out. But I still expect Quentin Johnston to be a full-time player this year.
Dude, fantasy points per game, Quentin Johnston was number 22 last year. Can you believe it? Now, it was based on touchdowns. I mean, anytime you have 84 targets and you turn 84 targets into 8 touchdowns, that's an unsustainable touchdown rate. Look back at 2023, we only had 2 touchdowns. So the touchdowns are going to come down. But this is not a player that they're just going to forget about. The bottom line is, this is a team that does not have a true X receiver that they can just post up on the outside. And the guys behind Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, Ladd McConkey, these are slot flanker prototypes. And there's just not an elite target earner on this team. That's the case for Oronde Gadsden. It's not 100% like, oh, he's taking over Quentin Johnston's route tree. That's not exactly what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there's going to be a lot of fluidity between the Quentin Johnston route tree and the Oronde Gadsden route tree. I also am concerned about the coach speak, because you're getting a similar coach speak with Quentin Johnston that you're getting with Keon Coleman, which is he's a player on the team and he's going to be out there, right? I wanted to hear a little bit more from the coaches about Quentin Johnston, a little more positivity, and I'm not getting it. And so that is the one thing where I'm like, I do think that it would be nice if it was sort of very dismissive. This guy's a big part of our team. We can't wait. No. It wasn't like he was a game day inactive like Keon Coleman last year. So there's no reason to kind of to put those Keon Coleman vibes out there around Quentin Johnston, but that's what we're seeing. It's what we're hearing. I hate it. He is a player that you could absolutely draft in the double-digit rounds in best ball, because this is a team that you want to target. In tight end super premium dynasty leagues, I even have some Charlie Kohler. Okay, that's how much I love this team. That's how much I'm investing in this team. Kamani Vidal, everybody. The two tackles being healthy, they were playing together 0 snaps last year because Rashawn Slater was hurt in camp. Now they're back. And I on a previous podcast, I posted a picture of these two guys. And, Rashawn Slater, number 2 PFF tackle the year prior to his injury, and Joe Alt towers over him. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. It's a great situation, man. You can't lose investing in Chargers.
Yeah. And I find myself drafting a lot of Justin Herbert this year just because the wide receivers, I think there's only one guy who I think is going to be like the full-time receiver that doesn't come off the field, and that's Ladd McConkey, because I think he can do a little bit more. I know you said a slot flanker archetype. We did see him play in some his rookie season. I don't know why we saw that not really happening as much last year, but I think he's the guy. But then when you look at everybody else, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, Brennan Thompson, Aronde Gatson, David Njoku, like everybody does such a different thing. So I think you're going to see a lot of Ladd McConkey, but he's so expensive that I don't find myself drafting a ton of him. So for me, it's Justin Herbert. Like, I just want to buy the guy who is going to be facilitating this offense. We saw rushing more last year than he ever has in his career. Now we've got this fun scheme coming with Mike McDaniel here. And I think we never even saw the Mike McDaniel scheme fully unleashed because Tua's arm strength kind of kept them from hitting it, where we'd see these like ducks getting thrown deep to Tyreek Hill, where you'd have to kind of like curl back to get them. Like having an actual deep threat quarterback, putting Brennan Thompson in that offense, having Quentin Johnston who could already do the downfield stuff. I think we're going to see this be the Mike McDaniel offense finally firing on all cylinders.
The pass rate in Miami was league bottom. It was right there with the Raiders. Now, that's because they didn't have the receivers. Tyreek Hill was hurt. They didn't have Jalen Waddle. The problem was Tua, right? In Las Vegas, the big problem was the receivers and the incompetent offensive line coaching. In Miami, it was Tua. Tua is a huge problem. That's why I kind of laugh about this whole Michael Penix and Tua Tagovailoa splitting snaps, and we're not sure who's going to start. If Michael Penix has a pulse at all, they just took him a couple of years ago in the top 10, and they signed Tua off the scrap heap. This isn't like Alabama Crimson Tide college football playoffs with Nick Saban. That was many, 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 many years ago. And what we've seen of Tua in the NFL is uselessness, just driving a team into the ground. So there's two quarterbacks that are passing like ships in the night right now. And it's interesting in that one of them is actually younger. You would think one is on the rise, but I think the older quarterback is the one that's actually, heading in a positive direction. And then that's Justin Herbert. And on the other side is Jackson Dart. So when we talk about players like Trey McBride, where at cost, like I would never draft Trey McBride. Love him, would never draft him. Why? Situation and cost. Same is true with a guy like Jackson Dart. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on with fantasy gamers drafting these Giants players where they're drafting him. And it's frustrating to read the news, just like it's frustrating to read Clint Kubiak praising, gushing over Brock Bowers and just letting every zombie fantasy gamer in on on the value of all values early in drafts with Brock Bowers. The same is true when they come out and say, when Jackson Dart himself comes out and says, this is going to be a run first team. Yeah, he is saying it in May. This isn't even August. This is May, and they're already saying this is going to be a run first team. The Malik Neighbors and Jackson Dart ADPs are baffling to me.
I have been drafting a ton of Jackson Dart. So, man, I like when we agree on stuff, but I like it even more when we disagree. I am drafting a lot of Jackson Dart this year. Now, the fears about Malik Neighbors, for sure. Like, I hear that. I was drafting Malik Neighbors early, and then once we got the report about, like, the second knee surgery that the beat was trying to convince us, it's a good thing that he had a second. No, it's not a good thing.
Clean up. It's good.
I'm scared of Malik Neighbors now. But Jackson Dart, come on, man. Like, he had 18 plus points in 10 of 12 starts last year. And sure, a lot of it came with his legs. But if you're telling me this is going to be a run first team, Jackson Dart is going to be running a lot. Like, look at what Harbaugh did during his entire time in Baltimore. You know, there is a lot of RPO, a lot of design quarterback rushing. They go out and they bring in Isaiah Likely and Pat Ricard, two guys from Baltimore. I expect to see a very similar style of offense here. Jackson Dart was second in rushing yards per game among all quarterbacks last year to only Justin Fields. So if you're telling me this is a run-first team, and I got a quarterback who can run the ball, I mean, the only fear with Jackson Dart, of course, is that he gets his bell rung in week 3 and he misses some time, which is a very real fear. There is a huge chasm between how much I like Jackson Dart in Dynasty and how much I like him in redraft. And typically, if you like a young guy in redraft, you should like that guy in Dynasty. I don't want Jackson Dart anywhere near my Dynasty rosters, but I think for this season where he is the starter on what is going to be a team that's going to run the ball, where Jackson Dart's going to run the ball a lot as well, yeah, give me that on my team. I want that.
There's no guarantee this is going to be an efficient offense at all. Like this, the problem is if you don't have the horses at wide receiver, if you're out there with Darnell Mooney and Calvin Austin at wide receiver and Theo Johnson and Isaiah Likely is not that explosive. Like I understand that John Harbaugh liked what he saw, right, and wanted to bring in his guy, and that's great. Like that certainly does help the case for Isaiah Likely. But this is just an offense that might not be able to get out of its own way. And I like offenses that I know are going to score a lot of points, are going to have soft schedules, are going to be involved in shootouts. And I'm just not seeing it, man. I'm just not seeing it. Would you rather have Herbert or would you rather have Dart this year?
I have Dart one spot ahead of Herbert in my rankings just because of the rushing. Now, if you're doing a 6-point passing touchdown that kind of nerfs the rushing upside a little bit, then I'd go Herbert over Dart. But in most formats, I prefer Dart to Herbert.
I strongly disagree. I want the offense with continuity that is improving with where the trends are all the winds that are blowing are tailwinds, right? I'm putting my finger up into the wind, Dave. My finger up in the wind. It's up. You see it? It's up. Right,
I can't see it, but I see your
now
arm up there. Yeah.
No, I know.
Yeah.
I knew you couldn't see it, so I was struggling. And now here's the finger. Okay, here's the finger. I'm putting it up in the wind. I'm putting the finger in the wind. And man, everything with the wind is blowing against the Giants. This is there's headwinds with the Giants. We're not sure when Malik Neighbors will be back. And when he does come back, how long will he have been immobilized? And how long is it going to take him to get fully back to what we believe he can be? December to get back to 100% peak Malik Neighbors? Maybe not even at all this season. Might have to wait until next season to see, full Malik Neighbors explosiveness. This is all very scary to me, where a team like the Chargers, it's all gravy. It's all value. It's all wide open spaces, man. And guys that are like literally, you could argue, but we could be talking about the best tackle duo of all time at the end of this season. That is certainly something that is in the range of outcomes, and everyone wins in that situation. It's Hampton, it's everybody on down the board. Whereas I don't like what's going on with the Giants, man. It stinks. And Cam Scadaboo, that was a gruesome injury. He's very confident, but he's been immobilized this whole offseason. And how productive are they even right now in camp? They're running all these plays, they're installing all these packages, and they don't even have their top players that are supposed to be playing these roles. If there is a guy that I want on my fantasy team at cost from the New York Giants, his name is Tyrone Tracy.
Yes, completely with you. One of my most drafted running backs right now, because I have a lot of fear about Cam Scadaboo coming back. But I just want to real quickly, like everything that you were saying about like playing with no Malik Neighbors, I hear you. I get that. And I think that is the consensus opinion. And I think because of that consensus opinion, it opens up value for these players. And last year, Jackson Dart, like we didn't get to see the ceiling because he played all year without Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors blew out his leg in the first game that they played together. So we never even got to see that. Last year, when I say that Jackson Dart had 18-plus fantasy points and 10 to 12 starts, those all came without Malik Neighbors. So last year was already a worst-case scenario, and he was still giving us top-end QB1 production. So, yeah, like, things are bad this year. I get that. But I think because that is the common theme here and the consensus opinion here, it makes them a good value. I think Jackson Dart can still go out there, run all over the field, and still give you QB1 production in what might not be a better offense than last year, but last year when the offense was completely broken, we were still getting the fantasy production. But what you said about Tyrone Tracy, absolutely. Like, I have no reason to believe that Cam Scadaboo is going to come back after his foot almost detached from his body last year. And like I know like he's got the grit that he says he wants to come back, that he feels 100%. I'm going to be trying to buy low on Scadaboo in season, but Tyrone Tracy is the guy that I want. Off the charts speed, size adjusted speed. I see right here, you've got it on Player Profiler, looks good. Former wide receiver, can catch passes. We've seen him be productive when he gets the opportunity, and I think he's going to have that early season opportunity.
Yeah, behind him, it's Devin Singletary, very dusty Devin Singletary. So, yeah, Tyrone Tracy's the guy, super agile, great receiver. I'm a fan. Give me an offense. I'll find someone I want.
I'll add on Tyrone Tracy, too, is like we draft so many like rookies and injury away running backs on these best ball teams, right? And we assume that every time we draft a Jonathan Brooks, Chuba Hubbard's going to go down, or when we drafted Nick Singleton, that he's going to win the job. Sometimes those things don't realize until late in the year. So I feel like when you're doing builds that are built with all of these high-end, late-season upside picks, Tyrone Tracy is that perfect balance that you can still get that early-season production from somebody for really, really cheap while you wait on those late lottery tickets to kind of take off.
That's right. That's right. That's right. He's a layered RB2 option.
Right.
He's the perfect RB2 option to layer in because you actually might be able to play him and not might. We'll be starting Tyrone Tracy week 1. We will be.
In a lot of leagues.
I mean, spoiler alert, I'll let you know right now. We'll be starting Tyrone Tracy week 1. I mean, you think about these teams, think about the skill sets, right? What is the difference in skill set, in player, in situation between what we have in Denver with RJ Harvey and what we have in New York with Tyrone Tracy? It's just that RJ Harvey did it last year, has the second-round draft capital. He's certainly a more tantalizing talent. But when you actually take a step back and you pull their player pages up on Player Profiler, and you're like, wait, what is the real difference here between RJ Harvey and Tyrone Tracy? Yes, Cam Scadaboo is better than anyone on Denver. I get it. But Denver did just draft Jonah Coleman. And when you think about that backfield, RJ Harvey's in trouble, man. He's in a lot of trouble. Now, this is not like a contrarian take. I know a lot of people know that RJ Harvey's in trouble. I just happen to think he's in a lot more trouble than is currently being processed.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the team, they love J.K. Dobbins. And I know, like, we kind of have this mindset that J.K. Dobbins is this, like, dusty, always injured running back. And he has picked up a lot of injuries throughout his career, but still just 27 years old. He's 2 years older than R.J. Harvey. Like, R.J. Harvey came into the league so old, and J.K. Dobbins came in so young. These guys are actually pretty tight in age. And RJ Harvey's tough because I really like the prospect. I do all the running backs over here at Football Guys for our rookie guide that we do. So spent a lot of time watching these guys last year. And RJ Harvey was a guy that I came away from watching, having really, really liked. And I was ecstatic when he got that round 2 draft capital, but didn't check the boxes I want to see at the NFL level. So I like the prospect, but now I have questions about the NFL player, and the touchdowns were there. So I think people get excited because the touchdowns and the fantasy production was there. But I am based in Colorado Springs, so I get a lot of Denver news here. And all of the news leading up to the draft was that they desperately wanted a running back. And if a team's going out spending a round 2 pick on a running back, and then they bring back a veteran, and then they say that they need to draft another running back, that is a pretty strong indictment on RJ Harvey.
It's fun. It's fun to when you have a player that you know is really good in one phase and not good in another. And on Player Profiler, there just happens to be 2 metrics where he's ranked exactly the same. Last year, RJ Harvey, juke rate 19.2, under 20, evaded tackles per touch, ranked number 41. Breakaway runs, 4, ranked number 41, 2.7 breakaway run rate. So even though he was explosive, he didn't break away with a lot of runs. And that was partially because he wasn't able to elude the defenders. And he had just an 85.9 explosive rating, which was ranked number 46. Yet in the passing game, his yards per route run was 1.61, which is number 6. This is the quintessential satellite back in the NFL that you can deploy in certain situations, and he's going to be incredibly successful. Why then are they touting Jonah Coleman's pass blocking? Why?
Because Harvey was terrible at it last year, and that's why Harvey was getting touches that he shouldn't have been getting because of injuries and nobody else stepping up there. So I think
it's weird, man. I don't like
Coleman, I don't like it either. But here, if you bear with me for a second, my comp for Jonah Coleman, I saw CEH. I comped him to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a guy who can kind of do it all, but isn't like exceptionally good at anything. Like CEH can catch passes, but he's not like great at it. And so can Jonah Coleman. Like, he's a guy who can kind of fill in any gap. So I think having the concerns about Harvey, a smaller guy who dealt with some injuries in college, J.K. Dobbins hurt every single year, I kind of do see Jonah Coleman as the type that they can keep him as the RB3, and regardless of who goes down, whether it's J.K. Dobbins or R.J. Harvey, they can put Jonah Coleman into that role. But I don't know if there's going to be a lot of usage without an injury. But if Dobbins goes down and they need somebody to handle that early down work, he can do that. If Harvey goes down and they need somebody to come in and step in on passing down work, he can do that. So I feel like Jonah Coleman is kind of an insurance policy for both guys if either goes down.
Can you explain to me a better 4th round pick than a guy that can back up both players? Isn't that what you want? You're not drafting a guy in the 4th round to be an instant starter.
Right.
You're drafting a guy in the 4th round to be depth, and the guy has depth versatility. That's exactly what you should want. But that's not necessarily going to move the needle for fantasy football. That's why when I'm on the clock and I'm at the 201 in a rookie draft, I'm drafting Nicholas Singleton over Jonah Coleman. I'm just doing it. And every time I'm at the 202 or 203, I cross my fingers and I watch Jonah Coleman go off the board, and I'm happy to just vacuum up all the Singleton, because Singleton is just he's a different cat, man. He was drafted later because why? Because of these injuries. It's very interesting and also just disappointing at the college level, and allowing Katron Allen to have a bigger role than he probably deserved. I see all this. We've talked about this before, how fickle fantasy gamers are and how difficult sometimes it is to even project how they're going to view certain players. So for example, like, I did not see so many pushing up Chris Bell. I was very impressed when I saw that. When I saw where Chris Bell was going in drafts and where his ADP was settling, I was like, oh, look at this. Look at this. This is clever. This is yes. Of course you want a guy like this. This is upside. Yes, you want to be pushing this guy up. Absolutely. Please, by all means, draft Chris Bell over Jeremy Bernard, because I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen years where guys with the Chris Bell profile get drafted after guys with the Jeremy Bernard profile, and it doesn't make any sense. Just one guy went in the second round, one guy went in the third round, and that's it. But this year is like, no. We're going after Chris Bell. We're going to push up Chris Bell. And I was like, cool. I'm happy to ride that wave, and I'll quote unquote reach on a third rounder because that's where he's going. And I love the upside. Happy to do it. Don't have to do it that much with Singleton. And I'm like, okay, I guess he doesn't get the Chris Bell treatment, but it's the same principle.
I just got an alert that I was like literally this morning that I was on the clock. I opened it up at 2:06 and Nick Singleton was still sitting there in a rookie draft. I could not believe it. And we just did a show. I had Jeff Blaylock on my show a couple of weeks ago, and I said, let's do like the best and worst picks in every single round. So he pulled ADP from DLF, and I nearly fell out of my chair when I saw that Jonah Coleman's ADP was 112. Like, that's crazy to me. And that was, of course, the guy that I picked to be the worst pick in round one. And I don't dislike Jonah Coleman by any means, but I really dislike him if he's going at the 112. And I was just on with your boy Johnny Tuma a couple days ago, and we were talking about Jonah Coleman, and I was saying all of this. Like, I think that he is a good NFL player. Like, if you told me that he's going to be in the league 8 to 10 years from now, that wouldn't surprise me at all. But where's the upside case here? Like, to me, this is a Samaje Perine, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a dirty work, can do it all type of guy, but where is the upside? Like, why are we drafting a day 3 running back who is scared to do any athletic testing this offseason in round 1 of our rookie drafts? I know it's a weak rookie draft, but
hold him accountable, Dave.
Just swing for upside.
Hold him accountable. You don't want to test? We're not drafting you. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
Then the last thing, Singleton. We talk Coleman, we talk Singleton. I feel like you need to put an asterisk next to some draft capital. And I think Nick Singleton falling to day 3, considering he broke his foot a month before the draft, you almost want to like bump that draft capital up another round or two, just because like that is the reason he fell. Realistically, Nick Singleton probably would have been a round 3 pick, but because of the broken foot, he fell. So I'm not worried at all. Like Nick Singleton, if I have to stash him on my taxi squad and I get nothing in 2026, I'm okay with that. I'm drafting him knowing that Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears are both on expiring deals, and I think they drafted Singleton to be the RB1 of the future in Tennessee.
Beast. When the roster watch guys told me like what he squats and just explaining what a freak he was, I was like, oh, this is just one of those situations where you looking back, you're like, how did Stephon Diggs fall to the 5th round?
Oh,
early breakout at Maryland. Well, now we know. Early breakout at Maryland. We're like, how is this possible? It's like, yeah, man, I don't know. And this is one of those scenarios where I can see us in 3 years going like, can you believe this? Could you remember? Remember when? It's like, this is a bad class. I get it. But this is what you have to do. This is how you make lemonade out of lemons, is you take guys like Singleton in the 2nd round. That's the only way to make it work this year in Dynasty rookie drafts. And with Jonah Coleman, I do like J.K. Dobbins this year. In seasonal leagues, I'm in on Dobbins, and I even have some Dobbins in Dynasty. I think Dobbins is a really inexpensive guy that you can just play and flex in Dynasty leagues. I mean, most of my orphans, I'm in sort of desperate situation with them, and people want me to just throw in J.K. Dobbins. I'm like, no, not really. I'm not doing that, man. J.K. Dobbins, he's sort of the Daniel Jones of running backs at this point, where it's like everyone's just ready to move on, but you look at the numbers and it's like, oh, he was actually pretty good. I guess we don't. Maybe we should, because he comes out of Ohio State and everyone's so excited about the size, speed specimen that is J.K. Dobbins. And so that's one of my flaws as a Dynasty gamer, is sometimes I do feel a little bit of an affinity for these players that I shouldn't. I should be a little more
Mhm.
clinical. But I'm like, this guy's been through a lot. And I remember he scored like an 80-yard touchdown with like a hitch in his gait because
Yep.
of his
Week
because of
one
his
when he was with the Chargers. Yep.
his bad leg. And I'm like, this
He
guy,
couldn't bend his knee. He was out there like just running a sprint with a dead leg. Yeah.
you wouldn't be caught me out there. No way. You couldn't catch me out there doing that. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's not a reason to go draft J.K. Dobbins by any means, just because I have this irrational affinity for him. It's just a good pick. It's just a good, very solid pick, and it's an ambiguous backfield. All of a sudden, it's suddenly crowded with Jonah Coleman, and I think the answer is J.K. Dobbins. And if you look across your rosters in all formats and you have more Dobbins than these other guys, then you're probably doing it right. Where are you with Brian Thomas? Because this is an interesting case where you have Trevor Lawrence putting up the exact same season he has every other season, except more touchdowns.
Mhm.
And he's being credited with a breakout. Brian Thomas was awesome as a rookie. And then actually a lot of the same underlying metrics last year, but everyone's ready to move on. So I thought it was a very interesting sort of these two players, very interesting divergent values and divergent sort of perception of, where these guys are headed, where it's like, hey, Trevor Lawrence to the moon and Brian Thomas going straight to hell. I'm not ready.
When I first started dipping my toes into best ball drafts, I couldn't believe how low Brian Thomas was getting drafted. And then I started doing more and more drafts. And I found myself passing on him more than I thought I would at that price. And I just get a little bit scared that so much of his production came late in the season, his rookie year with Mac Jones. Like, we just haven't really seen that connection with Trevor Lawrence yet. And now I think with Liam Cohen in the picture, it scares me even more because early in the season, I think they wanted Brian Thomas Jr. to be that wide receiver one, but he just can't really do the things that are asked of receivers in a Liam Cohen offense, where you got to go across the middle of the field, you got to catch balls through traffic, you got to be able to take a hit after catching the ball. And Brian Thomas is more of a, they're just going to pin him outside. He's going to run down the sideline.
Look at the comp, dude.
Really
Look at the comp.
fast.
Look at the comp. Look at the comp. Look at the comp.
DK Metcalf. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, like you asked DK Metcalf to go across the middle. You nailed that comp, right? And like DK Metcalf, you ask him to go across the middle of the field and catch a ball, and he's going to have those same alligator arms. Like, he's not going to stretch out. Meanwhile, Jacoby Myers out there, he looks like he's willing to die to catch a football every single time. Like, it doesn't matter if a linebacker is lunging at his head, he's still going to stretch out and go for that ball. So I do worry that it's just a scheme fit here that doesn't match more than anything else. And that sucks if you're Brian Thomas, because you are a young player with first-round draft capital. We saw the upside, but you just don't see a lot of just like 9 routes and deep shots in a Liam Cohen offense. So I think a lot of what Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be doing is clearing out stuff underneath for Parker Washington, Jacoby Myers, the running game, and that does scare me a little bit.
Yeah, I have to say this is what's happening to me is like I have a bunch of Brian Thomas, but I don't want to get too exposed. I get very nervous about being too exposed. And it's funny, I feel like in trades in Dynasty, because I've been doing all these trades with these orphans, it's actually easier to get Brian Thomas than Parker Washington. I include Parker Washington. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, I know. I know. It's
I
crazy.
include Parker Washington in a deal, and it's like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, why not, man? Like, he's undrafted and he barely tested. I love the black box quality of Parker Washington, that we actually don't know how athletic he is, and he could be quietly athletic and nobody knows and no one will ever know. And there's just something about, and then now already they're leaking, oh, he's gonna have a contract extension coming down the pipe. It's like, oh God, really? You have to, please. It's already hard enough to get my hands on this guy. Damn it.
Yeah, this whole Jacksonville wide receiver room, I think we could probably do 2 hours just on that. Travis Hunter, though, is the guy that we haven't even talked about yet, and I think he's probably the most intriguing here. Like, it was 2 months ago that we saw this guy. Did you see that on Twitter? John McGlynn, he's a regular in Dynasty Twitter. You got Travis Hunter.
Oh, love John
third
McGlynn. I did a
round.
trade with John McGlynn where he totally took me to the woodshed.
Yeah, he does that. And he traded a third-round pick for Travis Hunter when the news came out that Travis Hunter was going to be playing more on cornerback. I'm still of the belief that Travis Hunter can do everything Parker Washington can do and then some. I think if you told me that they could get similar production from Travis Hunter than they could from Parker Washington, they'd probably just stick with Travis Hunter than extending Parker Washington. And again, I think so much was in flux last year with the season-ending injury to Travis Hunter. Brian Thomas Jr. picked up that ankle injury and didn't look like himself. That necessitated the trade for Jakobi Meyers midseason. I like Parker Washington. I think that he's a very good football player, but I think they probably want him as the wide receiver 3 and a rotational guy just because the upside with the other guys that they have is so much higher. So I think last year, all the Parker Washington stuff kind of came out of necessity late in the year. I don't think that's how they want to build that team.
I think normally you talk about, oh, you want Brian Thomas and you want Parker Washington and you guys respect the hell out of Jakobi Meyers and you like the just the raw upside case of Travis Hunter and all these things. And how can you not like Trevor Lawrence? It's like, listen, the reason we don't the entire situation is teed up so well for Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's the real Justin Herbert. And Trevor Lawrence is a fake Justin Herbert. And everything is teed up just perfectly for Justin Herbert and all of his weapons, and you just want everybody. This is not what we're talking about here. I don't think everything is teed up great for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. They could disappoint this year. The reason you're buying these receivers is the ambiguity. All this ambiguity suppresses all of their ADPs. We just don't know. We have no idea how the targets are going to get distributed. We were very precise about exactly who's going to run which routes and the target share distribution in Los Angeles. We can't say anything close to that with these wide receivers, but that is the buying opportunity. That's what we're just buying the ambiguity of these receivers going, hey, Parker Washington's pretty good. And no one can really agree what his target share is going to be. Travis Hunter, he's really good. I mean, I just did a big trade, huge trade. Shout out to Ryan McDowell from the Dynasty League football shop. We're in the league together. We just did a giant mega deal. We'll be talking about it more. But I at the last step in us getting a deal done was finding a way for me to include Travis Hunter. He really wanted Travis Hunter. So this is another guy who is an OG who was, getting Jordan Love from me without getting a quarterback in return. I was basically shedding Jordan Love naked in a superflex league. You have to pay up if you want to do that, right? If you want to get a Jordan Love, anyone of Jordan Love or better in a superflex league without giving a quarterback back in return, you got to pay a pretty big price. And he, so we had, I think, the structure of a deal. And then he's like, but I also really need Travis Hunter in this deal. If I'm going to give up all these picks and I'm like, man, all these orphans, one of the things I've been trying to do is just get as much Travis Hunter as I can because this is the ultimate lottery ticket. And all these orphans, they're doomed. And the only way they're going to compete is if we hit on some lottery tickets. So I want Travis Hunter. That's the kind of guy I want on these orphan teams. So to give him up was tough. Giving up Bashal Tutin was easy. That was like, whoosh, like, here you go, hot potato, no problem, right? Giving up Travis Hunter, not easy. But, he sweetened the pot, maybe a 2027 second. These are the types of things that I'm like, okay, I think we can do some business here. You want to add a 2027 second? How about a 2028 second? Okay, we can do business. Okay. So, yes. I'm in on all these guys. I like them all in the wide receivers. I don't want the running backs on the Jaguars. I don't want Trevor Lawrence. I don't much care for Brenton Strange. The one running back that I do like, LaQuint Allen. So
Yeah.
my question for you is two running backs that I think are very similar situations, very similar players, very similar valuations. You go to our Dynasty rankings on Player Profiler, Dynasty Deluxe, you're going to see adjacent higher than you'll see anywhere else. LaQuint Allen and Trevor Etienne Achane. That's my name from now. Etienne Achane. So we all know who we're talking about, right? I'm correct. I'm not disrespecting him, but everybody knows who the hell we're talking about when I say Trevor Etienne Achane. So who you got between those two guys?
Allen, and it's not even close. I mean, I can understand maybe having these guys like as rookies coming into the league being kind of close together. But
Okay.
last year we saw Allen was on the field for over a quarter of the team snaps, and he was drawing targets, and he was running routes and doing the things that we care about. ETN was what, like a 6% snap share player last year? Like I think ETN, HN, whatever we're calling him, I think that he's more of a special teamer where I could see Allen actually having like a very good role as a sort of pass catching satellite. Again, we're talking another, guy who has the pass catching chops. Like this guy runs routes like a receiver. And we saw him getting that usage already last year where ETN was just an afterthought. Like even when Chuba Hubbard was hurt, ETN wasn't getting the looks that we had hoped for. So I think Allen, like you could comfortably move him well ahead of ETN after what we saw their rookie seasons.
Back-to-back 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Not super efficient necessarily, but what did he do? 20 touchdowns. 20 touchdowns at Syracuse as a runner. Young, too, 20 years old. Came out early.
Yep.
And then puts up over 500 yards receiving. So he had over 1,500 scrimmage yards on the strength of a 14% target share and 64 catches in 13 games, Dave.
Yeah.
This is arguably the most talented running back on this roster.
I agree. Yeah. And I think Chris Rodriguez, I like him as well, but I think that there's a nightmare scenario here for Bashal Tutin managers that nobody really is talking about, in that Bashal Tutin will get nothing but the low-calorie touches in this offense, that all of the passing down work goes to LaQuint Allen, all of the goal line work goes to Chris Rodriguez, and what are you getting from Bashal Tutin? You're getting 18 carries for 58 scoreless yards every single week? Like, I think that Tutin is one of the bigger traps out there right now.
Well, he's the biggest trap. He's the biggest trap. And
Yeah.
I feel very proud about my stance on Tutin because a couple of years ago I would have been all in on Tutin. This is one of those
size adjusted speed, like it just relative athletic score off the charts, but you need to be able to play football. You need to be able to hold on to the football. You need to be able to hit your gaps. And I don't know if Tutin can do that.
I was way out over my skis on a guy named Tevin Coleman.
Oh.
And I mean, the guy had 2,000 yards at Indiana well before Fernando Mendoza ever set foot on that campus. And I liked him. I liked what he could do. I liked him on the Falcons. Looked great.
He had a little spurt there, yeah.
I like to put these guys in these archetype categories, and he's a slasher. And these guys that are a little bit upright, they don't quite have the lateral dynamism. They struggle to command a lot of targets. They struggle inside the 5-yard line to kind of move the pile. I see a lot of the similar traits with Bashal Tutin, and I just get nervous. And I'm like, what is the upside really? This seems like this is a classic touch squeeze, a little bit different than the RJ Harvey touch squeeze, but also some of the same fundamentals where he needs to be better as a pass blocker to earn those touches. And I'm just not so sure that he can do it. And this is another one of those situations where I was proud of fantasy gamers where he is not getting the ADP I expected. I expected him to be grossly overdrafted this year, and he's not. And so again, I'm very proud. Can't always guess where people are going to be slotting these guys in. So I'm proud of all of you out there that are not overdrafting Bashal Tutin. Be very careful. Be very, very careful with him. And he has a LeQuint Allen problem. And I'm giddy already. It's May, and I'm already giddy for week 1 because I just can't wait to go to X and see what people are saying once the usage starts. I'm talking about just halftime for the 1:00 games. I just want to just bask in the reactions to some of the usage where it's like, hey guys, hey, we've seen these movies before. We have a whole list of movies and we've seen them before.
Are you worried about Chris Rodriguez at all? Because I think Chris Rodriguez is also going to be annoyingly involved in this offense.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. The Chris Rodriguez touch on the 4-yard line is going to drive people crazy. Yeah. And the fact that Bajal Tootin has to actually score from 30 yards out, or else he's not going to be in a fantasy point scoring situation. It's like we're just preparing people emotionally for this situation. But again, fortunately, most people are not out over their skis like I was with Tevin Coleman on Bajal Tootin. And even in these orphans that I'm managing, typically second-year running back is what I'm looking for. I'm not trying to get rid of second-year running backs, but I am absolutely dangling Bajal Tootin, trying to get a 2027 first. Hey, if I give you Bajal Tootin, I can give you this and I can give you that. Can we somehow get me to a 2027 first, maybe a 2028 first? I'm now at a point where it's like the 2027 firsts are so unattainable,
right?
That now, because I have to take chances, right? The team's bad. I got to take chances. What are you gonna do? What do you do in that situation? Well, what if 2028 is just as good? What if some of these guys that are supposed to come out in 2027, what if they fall over into 2028 and then it's actually 2028? So I'm like, just give me the 2028s. Like, this is where I'm at. This is where some of these orphans are so bad. I'm just betting everything on 2028. Hey.
Yeah. Just keep kicking the can down the road, and hopefully by 2031 you'll have a contending roster. I mean, I'm in the same boat with a.
What do you want me to do, Dave?
Teams.
I'm taking over bad teams. You want me to just sit there and languish and let Lamar Jackson expire in my roster, not making the playoffs, or want me to trade him in a 2 QB league and maybe not get 3 firsts in return because no one has 3 firsts in this league? What do you want me to do, dude?
Yeah, that's what you got to do. And I like it. I've been changing my sights to 2028 as well, just because I think with the way NIL money is working, we are going to see that a lot of these guys that we just have assumed are going to declare in 2027 are going to go back for another year. So I think that, turning your sights to 2028, where those are half the price of these vaunted 2027 picks, is just good process.
It is. Which of these sleeper Chiefs wide receivers are you interested in? Because you go to the homepage on Player Profiler, you see the trending players. And one day it's Jeff Caldwell, another day it's interesting. Someone is going to benefit from Rashee Rice having to rehab a knee injury in a jail cell. Someone, because of the law of the conservation of targets, is going to be the beneficiary. And then the question is, who is that going to be?
I don't think there's going to be one. And I know that's the boring answer here. Like, yeah, I should be going, Cyrus Allen is the guy that you should be spending all your fourth-round rookie picks on. I do like Cyrus Allen. Could be a guy.
I have some Cyrus. I've been picking him up wherever I can. I mean, the problem is some of these leagues, the waivers run, and I'm seeing like 20% bids on him. It's like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah. So
but
like
the
Cyrus
leagues
Allen
where there's some
fun.
leagues where the people are still sort of fairly checked out in the off season, you can soak up, a bunch of Cyrus Allen. I prefer Cyrus Allen to Jeff Caldwell because one guy got drafted, one guy didn't. And if you're going to go undrafted with the best athleticism score in the class at the wide receiver position on Player Profiler, something's wrong. So no, thank you. Remember, a guy named Tommy Streeter Like if you go to Player Profiler, you can look up Tommy Streeter. It might actually take time to load because if a guy doesn't get searched for a very long period of time, it takes longer to load the page. But if you do look up Tommy Streeter, so we'll pull him up right now. We should pull him up right now. I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the load.
Slowly loading the page here. I see 6'5", 220 pounds, freak athlete. I'm not familiar with this guy.
Yeah, this is a classic guy. He actually did get drafted, but there are guys like this all the time that go 6th, 7th round in the case of Jeff Caldwell, go undrafted, and it's like this is what happens, guys. 6'5", 220. When I first started Player Profiler in the podcast, I was like, guys like this, man, I would put I'd have just a roster of Tommy Streeters. And then quickly I was like, no, there's something about playing football. It requires certain physical traits. It also includes certain mental traits and finesse and all these things that not all these guys have. And you need to be prepared for a guy like Keenan Allen to be able to go out and dominate, even though he runs a 4.7. That's just what happens, especially with the tight end position versus the wide receiver position. At first, I'm like, well, clearly, Dave, athleticism has to matter more for wide receivers. Not the case at all. That shocked me. Again, this was all when I was just getting started. Now it's sort of a known truth about evaluating prospects, but 10 years ago, that wasn't all so obvious.
Yeah. And then we saw Cooper Kupp and DeAndre Hopkins and these other guys that came in with terrible athletic profiles, just dominating in the NFL. So, yeah, I mean, you still want to take those bets on athleticism. When they do hit, they're a lot of fun, but just because a guy can go out and run fast in shorts doesn't mean that he's going to be good in the NFL. But I still, I'm terrified of what this Chiefs wide receiver room, just this offense as a whole, can look like without Rashee Rice, because I don't think that they have a guy that can play that role. And we saw last year when they didn't have Rashee Rice, it's not like they were putting anybody else in that role. They grossly changed how they managed the entire offense, where we saw Tyquan Thornton getting more downfield stuff, and we saw other guys getting involved in different ways, but I don't think they have another guy on that roster. Like, they tried it with Juju Smith-Schuster, but he can handle about 1/4 of football in that role before his body just breaks down at this point. So this guy on the street that I think makes a lot of sense to step into the Rashee Rice role that's still available right now.
Is his name Stephon Diggs?
It's Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel is a yak monster, just like Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice doesn't have the same build as Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel is built like a running back. It is interesting that a guy as svelte as Rashee Rice does so much work out of the slot, and so much of his production comes from yak. The riddle of all riddles from last year, or in the last 3 years, is how is it possible that Tyquan Thornton has more air yards in 2025 than Rashee Rice has in his career? That's a fact.
Because different roles. Yeah, I know. And I mean, we saw the one play where, it was a bomb. I mean, this was probably a quarter of Tyquan Thornton's plays or air yards came on consecutive plays, where he had that deep bomb that he dropped, and then he caught it the second time around and gave the thumbs up that he caught the ball. I mean, that was his role, was running 50, 60 yards downfield and occasionally pulling a target. So he had air yards in the same way that Calvin Austin had air yards. I mean, every once in a while, they just chuck a ball deep and hope that he can come down with it. But they did last year, too. They drafted Jalen Royals, and I think Jalen Royals can do a lot of the Rashee Rice stuff. A guy who can play out of the slot, is just a beast after the catch. But I always do get a little bit scared when we see these guys that are just complete zeros their rookie season. So I think if you're looking at the roster right now, who is best to step into the role that might be vacated by Rashee Rice, I think it would be Jalen Royals, but I think it makes more sense for them to go out and bring in Deebo Samuel.
Yeah, I think the rankings that I would have for this year and in best ball, I actually like Tyquan Thornton just to plug in, to flex and hope to get a deep touchdown. That's all you can really hope
Round
for.
20 of your draft, why not?
Yeah, why not? So that's actually the direction I'm going. I would go Jalen Royals because he has that year of experience. He has the full acclimation to the league, not just the offense and the playbook, but the league. Cyrus Allen is a rookie, and maybe Cyrus Allen overtakes him at some point, maybe next year. So I like Cyrus Allen as the next guy on the list. And then Jeff Caldwell would be much further down. And again, that's all reflected on the Dynasty rankings on PlayerProfiler.com. I've been following the news closely, and I'm involved in the editorial headline creation of the news on Player Profiler. Very, very happy to do that, and I'm really enjoying it. And some of these headlines that are coming out are just they're amusing to me. That I was like, and I'm like, you know what? Like, we're gonna layer some sarcasm in here, and that's just what we're gonna do. So let me just pull this up. This is about Jalen Hurts. So I'm gonna pull this up on the screen right now. I found this to be funny. That Sean Mannion will be channeling McVay and Shanahan.
Wow.
Oh my God. How amazing.
Does he have experience with either of them? Where is this coming from?
It's just funny. Like, this is a quote. This happened. This was something we found at the Philadelphia Inquirer. What? Like, it's just fun. I just, like, okay.
I saw the sarcasm in your follow-up story as well, that somebody looks elite in shorts. Jordan Tyson.
Yeah, Jordan Tyson did look elite. He does. Yeah, so if we scroll, this is it. Yeah, Jordan Tyson looks elite in shorts. This is very true. There's a lot of sarcasm here. Jacoby Brissett absent from quote-unquote voluntary workouts. We know they're not voluntary, really, are they? No, not really. But anyway, yeah. So it's also, there was some news about Jackson Dart in there. We talked about that earlier. So that's all in there. PlayerProfiler.com/news to check it all out there. I
guess I did forget that Sean Mannion played.
You don't need to worry about Sean Mannion. You don't need to worry about who he's channeling. You just need to know that Jalen Hurts has been a top 5 fantasy quarterback for the last 5 years in a row.
Think he can keep that up? I have some concerns about Jalen Hurts, especially if they lose A.J. Brown this year. And, this talk about a Sean McVay / Kyle Shanahan offense is that requires a lot of processing. And I don't know if that's Jalen Hurts' best trait either. So I'd have a little bit of concern here. I mean, yes, you can make the argument that Jalen Hurts has been top 5 almost every single season, but that has also gone down every single season. Like, he barely cracked it last year. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous about Jalen Hurts.
Well, in terms of fantasy points per game, he was not. Right? He just happens
overall
to play.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, yes. He plays all the games. He plays 15
what
plus
I see
games.
In points per game is that it's gone down in 4 straight seasons.
That is interesting to me. 25.6 fantasy points per game in 2022. Then we have the tush push. And then we have teams reacting to the tush push. We have scheming against what Jalen Hurts can do. We have information now being circulating around the league. More and more defenses understand what his weaknesses are. And even though he had a career high passing touchdowns, he had essentially a career low in fantasy points per game, as long as you don't count 2020. It's interesting.
He wasn't playing. Yeah, like I think he started 2-3 games that season. So
I mean, he was in a bunch of games, but in 2020 he was just rotating in. He was basically he was a running back in a handful of snaps in a bunch of those games. That he didn't start all those games. So as a starter, certainly last year was his worst year, even though he set a career high in touchdowns. Hey, if we're gonna criticize Trevor Lawrence for having a fake breakout that was touchdown based, then you're certainly allowed to be concerned about what's happening with Jalen Hurts. And they're talking about it openly with the Eagles. It's been quoted in article that they are concerned and that there are scenarios where they move on from Jalen Hurts. This has been discussed. Now, it was also discussed the Cowboys moving on from Dak Prescott a couple of years ago. And that would have been a mistake. And now you don't hear that anymore. So this could be a Dak Prescott situation, or there could be something here.
So I do every offseason, I go through position by position, and I lump players together into these buckets of like players with similar archetypes. And, I usually try to look at like age, injury history, scoring profile, all this stuff. And I lump players together because like dynasty rankings, you know how hard it is, Matt. Like doing a flat list of dynasty rankings, like where do you put Derrick Henry? Like, is he the RB10 in Dynasty or is he the RB50 in Dynasty? Because I think, like, both are right, depending on where your team is and what you're looking for. Like, if you need immediate production, you know what I'm saying. Like, it is really hard to do flat rings in Dynasty. So I do these buckets where I lump players together and I give them cute little names for every single bucket. And I have one in my quarterbacks rankings that's coming out tomorrow. And
that's on Football Guys.
This bucket,
right there on Football Guys.
It is on Football Guys. Yes, it'll be out tomorrow. And the title of this bucket is called "Are We Sure This Is Sustainable?" And there are two players in there, and we've talked about both of them on today's show: Jackson Dart and Jalen Hurts. And that's the name of that bucket. Are we sure this is sustainable? Like, the production has been there, but can you bet on that production 2 years from now, 3 years from now? I'm not really sure.
This is the problem with QB rushing production. It is fleeting, and it peaks when these guys are like 26 years old, and it just starts to decline. It's why drafting even Josh Allen in a, with the 101 in a superflex dynasty league is a little terrifying. I'm happy to trade down. If you have the 101, are you just drafting Josh Allen with confidence, or are you trying to trade back?
Oh, I'm trading back, and like performatively trading back. Like, I don't care what I get on top. The reality is that, like, I would almost prefer Drake May, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, those guys in a vacuum, but I don't want to be that guy that's taking Drake May with the 101. So, like, if you give me a second-round pick to trade from 101 to 102, I will take that just so I don't have to take a 30-year-old quarterback with the first overall pick in a startup.
Who gains a lot of his fantasy points from rushing, and that is fleeting. Yes, I'm with you. I don't know if I've told you, but I was in a dynasty startup, just started drafting, and I took Brock Bowers, the 104. I'm not sure if I mentioned that I got Brock Bowers in a 2X tight end premium league. I'm not sure if I mentioned. I might have mentioned it. It's been over an hour we've been live talking, so I don't know. Maybe I didn't. I just want to make sure that people know that I have Brock Bowers.
Yeah. If you were sitting at 104 in a dynasty startup and Brock Bowers was on the board, would you take it, Matt?
I would take. Yes, I would take. Yeah, Brock Bowers. Yes, thank you very much. Yes, Brock Bowers. Thank you. When we were looking at Jeff Caldwell, his best comparable player was Christian Watson.
Ooh, okay.
Now, it could easily be Tommy Streeter too. Like, he was undrafted. So anytime you're comping a guy to, a day 2 pick that went undrafted, that's a little fringy and it's subject to change. Christian Watson is very exciting to me. He is a tough player that is viewed as fragile. And when we talk about, hey, how is the situation playing out? What are we talking about here? I love the stability that a Sam Laporta is going to enjoy in Detroit. But I also love that finally we have some certainty with the target share distribution in Green Bay. We have a nice, healthy offseason finally, for Christian Watson, who has overcome injuries, who has played well after coming back from serious injuries, showed real toughness, and now there's no more Romeo Doubs clogging up the offense. There's no more Dontavian Wicks clogging up the offense. And I do admit that I like players like Christian Watson that are explosive and have like downfield big play, spike week possibility in their range of outcomes. But I like him even more when it's real, when they've done it. And then everything is sort of set up for them to succeed the following year, and you can still get them at a discount. That's what I like about Christian Watson. Am I crazy?
No, I think he flipped that switch last year. I mean, we saw him average almost 20 more yards per game than he has at any season of his career. And that was coming back from an ACL, and coming back early from an ACL that he tore in the final week of the regular season, and then came back and had his best year. So I am with you here. And earlier we were talking about Brian Thomas Jr., DK Metcalf. You could say that Christian Watson is built from a similar mold, right? Like a big, tall, fast receiver. And early in his career, he was very much so that type of receiver where he would just play on the outside and just kind of use his straight line speed and nothing else. Last year, we saw that route tree develop and change quite a bit, where then he starts catching balls across the middle of the field. He's running these deep crossers. He's making plays after the catches, ADOT drops. So I think that's why the Packers had some faith in letting Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks walk, because they kind of had like a 3-receiver room made out of parts from 5 different receivers, where they can use, like, you know, Romeo Doubs does this well, and Jaden Reed does this well, and Christian Watson does this well. And if we rotate all of these guys, we kind of have a good wide receiver room. But in addition to Christian Watson answering those questions last year and doing more than just riding the rail and playing outside, we also got Jaden Reed doing more last year than he had at other points in his career. If you look from the time he came back from injury through the end of the season, he played out wide on over a third of his snaps in over half of his games. So that was the big concern about Jaden Reed, is, can this guy play out of the slot? The big question with Christian Watson, can he do more than just run vertical routes on the outside? I think they got both of those questions answered last year. That's why they let Romeo Doubs walk. That's why they traded away Dontavian Wicks. And now all of a sudden, we have this consolidated wide receiver room where for years we've been saying just avoid Packers wide receivers because it's this deep, frustrating rotation. Those days are over with, and I don't think fantasy managers have adjusted yet. So yes, I like Christian Watson. Jaden Reed is another one right now where Jaden Reed is falling so deep in drafts. He's regularly falling into round 8. I've got him on over 50% of my best ball rosters. I don't think these guys are coming off the field. It is going to be the Christian Watson and Jaden Reed show this year.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. God, that's so. We must have a sound effect for that. God, I'm a little late with that, but we kind of give that sound effect.
Oh, that works. Yes. I like that one.
Yes. That's so right, man. Just so right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Jaden Reed's phenomenal. He's a great talent, man. Like, he's best comparable to Stephon Diggs. It's actually a close comp. He actually can move around the formation. I've seen him play out of the slot. I saw him play outside. I saw him dominate quality defenders at the Senior Bowl, playing all over the place. And you haven't seen it? He can do it. Okay, he can do it. Try just watch. Like, this is what we always asking for these things. Consolidate. And then normally it's like, oh well, once it consolidates, the value disappears. Well, actually not true.
Not here.
Not in this case.
Like, these guys are still getting drafted.
Yes.
This is like one of the
we're drafting these guys in Jacksonville.
ADP is wrong.
Yeah, we're drafting these guys in Jacksonville based on ambiguity, and we're just like crossing our fingers. These guys, I don't think we even need to cross our fingers, Dave.
Yeah. I mean, I've just been paying up for Jaden Reed like around early because I think that his ADP is just broken right now. But like, I see people taking Parker Washington around before I'm reaching around for Jaden Reed, and that's just wild to me.
Let's talk about really, really good players. And one of them is Jahmyr Gibbs. The other is Bijan Robinson. we featured this in the graphic for the show. And, I've been studying all these teams and the trends and the forces that are propelling or suppressing their offenses, because our draft kit's coming out soon. So look out for that. And by the way, we just did this massive overhaul to the Dynasty rankings, and I had I was more involved with this overhaul than I've been in many, many years. So check it out on Player Profiler, and I think you'll like what you see. Now the top two players in non-superflex are both running backs, Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs, and I think it's very defensible. You want those two guys. In real life, when you're drafting in Dynasty, you can't look past them. You can't get by them.
Right.
With Bijan, there is one thing that concerns me. Jahmyr Gibbs, no concerns. The schedule comes out, and they have the easiest schedule. Is that great for Jared Goff? Not necessarily. You want a shootout schedule, not necessarily the easiest schedule in terms of points allowed by opposing defenses. That's a fallacy. That doesn't necessarily help the quarterback. It does always and forever help the running back. So that's great for Jahmyr Gibbs. Everything, all green lights for Jahmyr Gibbs this year. In fact, I'm drafting Jahmyr Gibbs over Bijan this year in best ball. In Dynasty, it's very close. The one concern I have with Bijan is this Falcons offensive line. They tried to fix it. They brought in Jawan Taylor as a right tackle, as if that's like a panacea solution. They have Lindstrom, one of the best guards in the league. And that's great for the running game. They certainly have a very efficient run blocking unit, for sure. But it isn't great for the offense. It's good for Bijan. Like, if the quarterback doesn't have a lot of time, that means more dump offs to the running back. And as long as you have good guard play, then you have wide running lanes. We've seen that in Indianapolis. So I think the same principle applies with Atlanta, and that's good for Bijan. And so that's why I'm comfortable drafting Bijan, because even if this offense is crumbling in the passing game, he is going to benefit. It's just the touchdown equity comes down a little bit for Bijan Robinson in that particular situation. My worry is for the whole team, the touchdown equity has to come down because of the offensive line. Just like I love what's happening in Los Angeles and I'm riding that offensive line, I can't then just be like, hey, I'm drafting all these Falcons, don't care. No, I actually do care. If there's a reason potentially to pivot from Drake London to another option for whatever reason, this could be a reason. Okay, so or let's say Kyle Pitts. Maybe Kyle Pitts is asked to block a little bit more than we'd like. These are possibilities because the offensive line is in free fall. This was the most efficient offensive line in football just 2 years ago. Last year, number 16, just in terms of overall efficiency. And they didn't do enough to address the deficiencies. That's my concern.
I'm not too scared of the Falcons just because, like, this is such a consolidated offense. I don't think that they're going to be scoring a ton, but, like, who are targets going to besides Drake London and Kyle Pitts? Bijan Robinson, of course. I think the one fear that I'd have here, and like it's such a silly fear to even have, is that Brian Robinson Jr. could step into the Tyler Algier role and just like siphon an annoying amount of touchdowns. I feel like that is in the range of outcomes here, but it's not something that I'm overly concerned about. I'm still taking Bijan at second overall, but even if there isn't a ton to go around, it's just so hyper consolidated to the guys that we care about in fantasy football that I don't really care all that much. I'm not worried about Olamide Zaccheaus or Jahan Dotson or any of these other guys taking valuable touches from the guys that we actually care about.
Let's just for the moment explain how ridiculous this roster is. Okay. Mm-hmm. Behind Drake London is Jahan Dotson, which is indefensible.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I wanted to lay this out to you. I wanted to tee this up for you. Maybe you did have some concerns, but no. It's so consolidated. It doesn't much matter. The one player we talked about that we like, which could be taxed slightly because of the offensive line, is Pitts.
Right.
This wide receiver room, man, Dotson, Zacchaeus are starters in 3 receiver sets. And you might say, well, all these teams are going to 12 personnel. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you know who the Falcons brought in for their 12 personnel? Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
And let me just, I want to give these names out. I want to list these names because I want to embarrass the entire front office in Atlanta. Behind Austin Hooper is a player named Charlie Warner, and behind him is Joshua Simon. Now again,
Joshua Simon, I'm pretty sure was a college quarterback. I think he's like new to playing tight end.
Probably. I don't know who that is, and I know most players. We just pulled up Tommy Streeter on the screen. Okay. So I feel pretty good about my depth of knowledge on personnel, especially skill position players. And I don't know who the fuck Josh Simon is. Okay. It's embarrassing. We talked about the Chargers. It's a different, that's the other end of the spectrum. We talked about an offensive line moving in the different direction. And then their number 3 tight end is David Njoku. Because technically Kohler is going to be on the field more than Njoku. Now, behind Zacchaeus, we have Dylan Drummond, Casey Washington, Chris Blair, and Lemeke Brockington. These are real players with real names. Now, I haven't mentioned who's behind Drake London yet. Behind Drake London, we have Zachariah Branch. He's a real player. He has some potential, more of a gadget player, but I could see him getting involved because why not? Might as well. Behind him is Vinny Anthony II, and then behind him is Keelan Marion. If you go...
That's what I don't know.
Right. If you go to Atlanta's camp, these are the players you'll be watching. And that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that behind Penix, they have Tua, and then behind him, they have Trevor Siemian, and behind him, they have Jack Strand. This is a front office that deserves to be fired, and I should take over. I would do a better job.
I think you would too. But,
oh, no doubt.
You know, I think this could be fun for fantasy. Like we saw last year, and this is one to me, like, the way you kind of teed up the question, like, should we be worried about Drake London? Like, Drake London is a guy that I've just been aggressively targeting at the 1-2 turn. Like, I'll take him if I've got the 12th pick overall. Like, I'll happily take him with that 12th or 13th pick because I feel like we saw the breakout last year and people just kind of ignored it for whatever reason. I don't know if it's because, like, it happened mid-season and people just forgot. Maybe the memories of him being hurt through the fantasy playoffs outweigh what he did, but there was a 6-week stretch where he scored 6 touchdowns and averaged 110 yards per game. Like, we finally saw that 30+% target share realize itself, that when you are a 6'5" freak athlete who pulls 30% of your team's target shares, you can be really productive in fantasy football. So I've got him in the same tier as Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb and these other guys that we're drafting to be elite receivers. And I don't care if it's going to be Penix or Tua or Jack Strand throwing the ball to him. Like, Drake London is out there. He's going to get a lot of targets, and he's going to be productive and efficient with those targets.
Agree. Question from the chat. Love this. Like, we have, hey, Dave and I are here to talk for 2 hours in May.
Yeah.
And so you want to come in with a chat question, please, by all means, live chat. We're here for it. Hot Picks. Literally, his name's Hot Picks R3. What can we expect from Malik Willis this year? It's a good question because this is an interesting offense. It's bereft of talent, but there is some opportunity.
I'd guess that we see somewhere between the Malik Willis we saw in Tennessee and the Malik Willis we saw in Green Bay. I think it'll be somewhere in between those two. I mean, no, there's going to be a lot of rushing. You want to pull up another laughable depth chart, pull up the Dolphins depth chart right now. It is terrible. This is a team that is very much so in the midst of a rebuild.
Right. Yeah, you just said it, though. You said it. Right. That's not a bad thing.
They're set up for the future. Right.
See, the Falcons, the reason why we can mock the Falcons is they think they're being competitive. They think this is a good idea, what they're doing. This is
have
very
a first round
intense.
pick this year because they
Miami-
spent it on
Miami-
James Pierce last year.
Yeah, Miami's doing this on purpose. They're not trying to trade up for
Right.
James Pierce.
So I think Malik Willis is one that I am drafting quite a bit of, again, just because I'm a sucker for that rushing upside. And like I
course.
think that you can get there with potential QB1 upside with Willis just because of the rushing. Now, I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't like any of the receivers in Miami,
No.
but there's no competition for the starting job, and he can get 12 to 15 carries per game. Like that alone is going to play in Dynasty.
This is your arbitrage play on Dart right here.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
For all the reasons you love Dart, here you have you don't have the risk you have lower price tag, and actually you don't have so much volatility with the roster. You don't have a lot of injury concerns. You have Devon Achane getting paid. I love that. I love that he's getting paid. I love that he is such a machine. I love that he is he's right there with Jahmyr Gibbs in terms of the most efficient running backs in the NFL. And he now has Malik Willis holding linebackers accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very interested in what Devon Achane can do. I love Devon Achane this year. I think he is a smash. Get him, like he's at the 1-2 turn, right?
Yeah, and I think he's accurately priced. Yeah, I'm not going like above and beyond to get him on every roster, but a guy that I'm happily taking at the 1-2 turn. Yeah,
happily. It's kind of funny. I feel like a lot of years the 1-2 turn, there's wide receivers that are there that I'm usually leaning wide receivers at the 1-2 turn most years. This year it's like
Genty.
H and Genty are there, and I'm like, these are players I'm very interested in. I mean, Genty for a bunch of other reasons, that they're finally going to have some offensive line coaching competence. They're finally going to have upgrade. They're much more touchdown equity this year with competent quarterback play, some improvements on the offensive line. Just Brock Bowers healthy, like this whole thing. Everything is nicely teed up for Genty to finally show what he can do. But just a continuation of what we've seen with Achane in a much better situation than he's ever been in, actually. So I'm excited for that. I'm also heavily exposed to Ollie Gordon in Dynasty. A ton of, if you want to talk about who could be this year's Tyler Algier, it ain't Brian Robinson, bro. It's Ollie Gordon. And it won't necessarily hurt Achane. You don't even want Achane getting a 90% opportunity share. You shouldn't even want that because he's going to get hurt. Right? So this is one of those eyes wide open situations where I'm happy to share the load. Hey, 30% of the rush share, go ahead, Ollie Gordon. By all means, take it and run with it. You're going to benefit from the same core principles of the Alfred Morris corollary as my man Achane.
So Gordon scares me a little bit because that is a bet on touchdowns. And I don't know how many touchdowns they're going to be scoring here. Like, yeah, we have to do our projections and like put, everybody down for something. And when you do those projections, you say, yeah, Ollie Gordon could end up with 5, 6, 8 touchdowns. And that'll play in Dynasty. But this is one where like Achane, I'm okay taking him at the 1-2 turn. I really like Malik Willis where he's going. But I just find myself kind of avoiding the receivers. Like I've seen a lot of talk like Malik Washington, he's the wide receiver 1. What does the wide receiver 1 on a bad run first offense really matter? Like, sure, he's going to be the wide receiver 1 and that you're going to get like 4 for 43 scoreless yards. Like,
if it's not Jalen Tolbert.
Matter? Yeah, and that's the other thing. It could be Jalen Tolbert. Could be Greg Dulcich. Greg Dulcich might lead the team in targets. Probably not, but like this is a wide open depth chart. Maybe Tutu Atwell. Like I think that ball is going to be spread thin among a bunch of not really great
low volume
wide receivers
with a Russian quarterback who's going to suck pass attempts out of the offense. Just take the receivers off the table. Don't even worry about it.
Right.
If it's best ball, I don't have any Miami receivers. Like it actually makes no sense. There's not a lot of upside there. There's not even there's not much of a possibility of a significant spike week, given that at most you're going to get like 6 targets. You have to
Malik
be
Washington can break a tackle backed up against their own end zone and run for an 80-yard touchdown. That's the only way you're getting 80 yards and a touchdown from Malik Washington.
Yeah, forget it, man. Don't worry about it. But in these scenarios where you have mobile quarterback, consolidated offense, low volume, the tight end can be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much lower bar for a tight end. And so Dulcich is interesting to me. In all formats, Dulcich is interesting. Dynasty and seasonal leagues, every best ball, Dulcich is very interesting. Now, Dulcich is interesting because tight end premium dynasty leagues are very prevalent, and he's not that old. And it's not, right. It's actually not that easy for a team to just stumble upon a franchise tight end like a Colston Loveland or a Brock Bowers. You're going to draft him in the top 20 pick. And they have a lot of other things that they need to be drafting in the next couple of years in Miami beyond tight end. So you could easily see Dulcich exceeding expectations and then just kind of riding it for a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
He's a good receiver, man.
That's all he is. Like, he's not really a tight end. Like, he's just the size of a tight end, but he's just going to be out there running routes. So I do like Dulcich as kind of that's like my favorite, like, oh, crap, I waited too long on quarterback and tight end in this draft. Let me just get a Malik Willis, Greg Dulcich backdoor stack here with my round 10 and my round 16 picks.
We've talked about multiple QB tight end backdoor stacks today. Fantastic. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, you got, and then we've even talked about like the potential of like a Bowers Mendoza. Now, let's just. When do you think Mendoza's taken over that job? When do you think he's going to be under center? Because I've heard like week 13. I've heard they're gonna play this out, and when it comes to these like. What's the word? It's like headline driven players, guys that are on the cover of GQ, where there's a lot at stake. Tom Brady's involved in the decision making in these things. Where it's not just like a mechanical, like, okay, we're going to look at metrics and we're going to look at trends and we're going to look at what's reasonable. I have to really close my eyes and visualize and just think it through. I have a really, really, really hard time imagining Kirk Cousins under center week after week after week after week. I can't bring myself to imagine that is true. Like, yeah, it makes reasonable, logical sense. This is what I'm saying. A lot of these decisions we talked about with the Dulcich, for example, it just makes reasonable, logical sense that he could be one of their target leaders for the next couple of years. And it wouldn't surprise anybody, except basically everybody that doesn't really follow football, like the sicko diehards that we are. We won't be surprised. We've done the math, right? We did the math on Brock Bowers. Some of this is just a math equation. This is not. Like, I understand that on paper, it makes sense for Mendoza to sit for most of this season. I think he would benefit from it to not actually have to be thrown in there until maybe the final 5-6 weeks of the season. But the forces that are at play here are bigger than like logical what's in the best interest of the franchise. It's just more, it's a complicated thing and you have to really think deeply about it. And I just don't see us getting to Halloween and it's still Kirk Cousins. I don't know. I mean, what do you think? It's very hard to project the number of games started for Raiders quarterbacks this year is such an impossible task.
It is. And I'm glad you talked on that for a while because it gave me time to look up the quote that I was hoping to find here. And you talk about Tom Brady kind of being involved in the decision process. And I think that's the important part here. Like, Tom Brady is a very process-driven process-oriented person. Like, he's not a results-oriented person. So I think if there's like one guy that could just stare in the face of public adversity when all the fans are booing at him and just say like, no, this is the process. We said we're going to do this and we're going to stick to it. I think Tom Brady is one of the guys that can do that. And here are a couple of quotes. I pulled these for a show that I recently did with Matt Harmon. We were on the Yahoo show and we were talking about this exact thing. Tom Brady, direct quote: I think it is a tragedy that we are forcing these rookies to play early. I think that it's best, in my opinion, for young quarterbacks or rookie quarterbacks to watch a veteran do it. When you have a real pro in front of you, you can help with that learning curve. Those three sentences are three separate quotes from three separate occasions where Tom Brady has talked about the importance of a young quarterback learning. So I think the Kirk Cousins signing was very, very intentional. Like, Kirk Cousins is Fernando Mendoza in 15 years. Like, very similar play style, similar stature. You know, they're going to be running this play action offense, standing tall in the pocket, doing all of the same things. So I think that,
you know the big difference, right?
What's that?
Cousins was a third rounder. This guy's the 101 on the cover of GQ.
Yes,
Took Indiana to the national championship.
Yes, and Kirk Cousins did not have that.
Kirk Cousins at Michigan State did nothing.
That's true. And even in Washington, you know, it was just kind of flashes, but I think we could agree that during his time in Minnesota, like, he ascended into being a good quarterback. Like, he didn't get $180 million. Again, Atlanta, maybe that is the $180 million in Atlanta. You should have added that when you were kind of tearing them down a few minutes ago.
Don't get me started. I was already started.
But we might see, like, you know, it might be late in the year where we see Mendoza come in for a couple of games. But, like, if Tom Brady is saying that he wants him to sit and learn from Kirk Cousins for a year, I think we could see Fernando Mendoza sit this year.
I know what you're saying. And again, what the exercise that I'm doing is I'm closing my eyes and I'm envisioning these games and how they play out. Yeah. Kirk Cousins getting embarrassed. Kirk Cousins throwing pick sixes. Kirk Cousins, who's not what he was because he's had ruptured Achilles and he's clearly not the quarterback that he was in Minnesota. And the questions in the press conference. Oh, another question. Oh, what about Mendoza? And then another way of asking the same question about Mendoza. And then another way of asking the same question about Mendoza. And then another way of asking the same question about Mendoza. After every practice, it's about Mendoza. And I can just, if they can do that for 13 weeks, I mean, I want to say it now. If they do this, and it is the right thing to do, I admitted it. It is the right thing to do. It is the correct process. If they want to optimize the Fernando Mendoza career, sit him until week 13. Can they actually do it? If they do, I need to have like a sort of an honorary anointing of the Raiders as one of the top teams, management teams in the NFL. I will do it. I will come on here and I will acknowledge that this team is going to win a Super Bowl. Like, if they can do it, if they can just show that kind of mettle,
to the process. Yeah.
If they can stick to the process and not start him until week 13, they're winning a Super Bowl, because that just shows incredible perseverance and right think, not wrong think. So if they can do that, I mean, God bless them. And I hope they can. I love Mendoza, man. I am so happy to push.
When you close your eyes, you envision Kirk Cousins throwing picks, taking sacks, boos from the crowd. What if you change that picture to the Kirk Cousins who, under Clint Kubiak during their 3 years together in Minnesota, averaged 4,400 passing yards and 35 touchdowns per season, and now you put him in an offense with Brock Bowers and Ashton Ginty. You're telling me that you can't see Kirk Cousins maybe look a little bit better with this pairing than he did during his time in Atlanta? Because I could absolutely see the upside for Kirk Cousins in this offense.
My eyes are closed. No.
I appreciate you trying.
It's going to be a lot bad. What are we talking about?
I can see Cousins looking okay here. This is a system that he knows well. Like, he knows Kubiak's system inside and out. And Kubiak wasn't just like a figure in the Minnesota arena. Like, he was the quarterback's coach. Like, 2 years as Kirk Cousins' quarterback coach, another year as his offensive coordinator. Like, this all, like, Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins, Clint Kubiak, Fernando Mendoza, like, this to me, there is some symbiotic harmony between these four that I think could end up working out long term.
I love talking to you, and I love talking in May, and I love carving out 2 hours and just saying, you know what? We're just going to dig in. We're not just going to move on to the next topic because we got another commercial break. Got to get out of here. No, we're digging in on this. We've given people a lot of great advice so far in all different league formats. We can dig in on this. So we're going to keep going. I want to show the schedule. Let's do schedule talk. If you want to do coach talk, you want to get into, you want to talk Kubiak, I get to talk schedule. This is one of my guilty pleasures, is to go schedule talk. So already we see some problems. Okay. We see some problems getting to the week 13 bye. Do you see some of the same problems that I'm seeing, Dave?
I'm seeing some very good pass rushes going up against a not so good offensive line.
I'm seeing some issues. I'm seeing some L's. I'm seeing, first of all, Cousins having just a great week 1. And then the problem is a healthy Chargers defense on the road in week 2. That's not great. And then you might say, oh, the Saints, but they've improved their defense, and that's a road game. And then it's the Chiefs, and then it's the Patriots, and then it's the Bills, and then it's the Rams. So that's 4 games there that he has to survive. Now, a bunch of home games there. One of them is in New England. And then if he can even make it to week 10, who's he playing week 10?
Buffalo, I think.
No, I have it up on the screen.
Seattle. Yeah, Seattle's going to be a bloodbath. I think we know that.
So he has Seattle week 10, and then after that, if he makes it through Seattle, he has to go on the road to
Denver, and then Cleveland, and then a bye week. I get it. It's tough. But let's also, this is a team that went out. They spent a ton of money on Tyler Linderbaum, and I think that is going to help a ton. We also got Jackson Powers-Johnson, like, looked good last year in between injuries. I don't think this team is as bad as they looked last year. I think that a hobbled Geno Smith really made the team look a lot worse than it actually is. I could see Cousins going in here and looking okay. I'm going to stand out. 10 toes down. I could see it. Yeah, week 1, he's going to look really awesome. And then if they can come out and they get that upset win against the Chargers in week 2, then we're cooking with gas.
Cousins needs to put up 600 yards in week 1 to build enough momentum to get.
And 450 of them are going to Brock Bowers.
Yeah, it's kind of like a skateboard ramp. Like, how high does he need to start in order to get over the hump? To get to week 13, he has to go 600 yards in order to get over the hump. I mean, it's pretty. You did notice that that early season game at New Orleans. I think that's going to be a bloodbath on a couple levels. One of the levels is that they're going to be facing one Chris Olave, the air yards leader of the NFL, who is getting a massive upgrade at quarterback in Tyler Shough. Tyler Shough's advanced metrics dominated that of Spencer Rattler last year. And I'm one of many that I've talked to who is talking about the real possibility that Tyler Shough is just the next second round pick that becomes basically a Kirk Cousins. You want to talk about who could be Kirk Cousins?
Yeah.
It's not Mendoza. It's Shough. Shough has that Kirk Cousins profile. In fact, I'd be shocked if we went to Player Profiler and his best comparable player wouldn't be Kirk Cousins. So, and then now if he holds every team hostage and extracts the absolute maximum amount of salary from each one, that would be even a closer comp. But I'm very excited for that. This is one of those teams. I have a couple teams I've identified, and this is going to be in the draft kit in a big way. Our team previews. Teams that we're exploiting. We've already talked about one, with the Chargers where we want everybody. And there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple teams out there where I just want everybody. And I'm telling you right now, one of those teams is the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah. I mean, we should see them take, I don't even want to say a step forward because they were looking good down the stretch last year. I think, Kellen Moore, another year as the head coach, like we can have a lot of faith in him. There's always that fear with year 2 quarterbacks, right? Like after defenses get a full year of tape, are they going to find out how to shut him down? But I think that the Saints did a great job of retooling on offense, bringing in Jordan Tyson, who I love. Like I've got him ahead of Carnell Tate. I know that's a spicy take, but he's my favorite wide receiver in this class. Love Oscar Delp as well. So, they can go into fun 12 personnel there with Juwan Johnson. So, a lot of teams are probably going to have some sort of counters for how to stop Tyler Shuck after his rookie season. All they did was add more firepower here. So, they're at least giving Shuck an opportunity. Like the job is his for the taking. He's going to have it for the rest of the year and one more good season, and he'll be the long-term starter there. I mean, I think wheels up for this Saints offense. Absolutely.
I just want, Oscar Delp. Can't stop drafting him. All these tight end premium. I mean, my preferred tactic.
Dynasty rookie drafts. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a good class. It's not a good class for dynasty rookie drafts. I get it, except the tight end position.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the one position that's any good in this class in terms of where there's depth, good players down the board, you're not getting that at the quarterback position. You're not getting it at the running back. Certainly not the wide receiver position. You are getting it at tight end. So just draft tight ends. And Oscar Delp is the first guy when in this next tier of tight ends after Sadiq, after Stowers off the board. Oscar Delp is in the conversation to be tight end 3 from this class. Juwan Johnson, that is not a high bar. No one has ever looked around and said, "Hey, Juwan Johnson, that's my anchor tight end." That's not a thing. It's there for him, and that is the offense you want to operate in. If there's a guy that could be like this year's Gadsden, very much could be Oscar Delp for sure. Give me another team. Can you think of one where you're basically drafting everybody?
There's a couple that I like. I think the Texans are one of those that's kind of gross. But I think, again, and these should make you feel gross because, if it's a team that everybody liked, they'd be getting drafted higher. But I think that there's so much value to be extracted from the Texans offense right now. CJ Stroud wasn't that bad last year. You think so?
No, he wasn't bad. I liked it. I said, yes, this is absolutely, this is he has had very similar seasons. It's just that 1 year he had
the touchdowns were there.
3 rushing touchdowns. Right. And yet, his rush yards per game was at a career high last year. And that's the big thing. We want to see him running more. And then he did on a per game basis. It's just he didn't play 17 games. He only played 14 games last year. But he also put up a career high in completion percentage. There were some things that are encouraging about CJ Stroud. This wasn't like a bust, flame out year by any means for CJ Stroud. I think he's one of those guys where I'm like, I'm happy to draft him in Superflex and 2 QB leagues, and I want to try to get him. I think it's a very clever move to take a guy that I don't want to keep bringing up Jackson Dart, but if you want to put a quarterback that has a much more sort of zest among fantasy gamers out there, put them on the block, get a deal done. You're rebuilding. Could do a lot worse than CJ Stroud, who is only 24 years old. They're going to have to pay him. I don't know when they're going to pay him, but they're going to pay him. And then as soon as they pay him, he's going to go up in Dynasty. And they just need one injury. A lot of these defenses are more fragile than you might think. It's like one key cornerback, edge rusher goes down, suddenly Rutrow, they have to start scoring points at a higher rate. So this is it. With Daniel Jones and the Colts, they're going to be more competitive this year. We looked at there's a lot of weapons there in Jacksonville. So there's going to be some points scored in the AFC South, David Montgomery is gross, but he is going to be a workhorse. So that is a player that I like. Yeah, it's hard. Nico Collins, not a player that I'm in love with, but he is a perfectly fine value. I really like Jaden Higgins.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say there's a tight end that I like on this roster, but in terms
Dalton
of
Schultz had 7 targets in like all but 1 game last year.
it's
Dalton
hard.
Schultz, it's ugly, but the volume is there.
It's hard to find a pukier team that you actually have to hold your nose and just draft all these guys. I'm with you. It's a hold your nose and draft them all.
Yeah. And I think the other one for me that is just kind of, I just want to draft everybody because I know where the targets are going, is Minnesota. I'm scared of Kyler Murray, but I don't know, man. Kevin O'Connell just keeps sprinkling fairy dust on guys and getting career seasons out of them. I could see Kyler Murray being next up for that role.
One I like is the Panthers, and because we're talking about quarterbacks, young quarterbacks that still have some residual juice or might be underrated. Certainly, C.J. Stroud, he's clearly one, but Bryce Young as well. Bryce Young was actually solid. I'm not saying he was good. He was solid in the second half. We're talking about 11.9 fantasy points per game in the first half versus 15.3 fantasy points per game in the second half. And you look at the defenses that he's going to be facing: Tampa twice, Atlanta twice, New Orleans twice. New Orleans is improving, but 23.5 points allowed by those teams. And we have consolidated weaponry. No one is drafting Xavier Legette. No one thinks he's going to be anything. No one's drafting the tight ends. So what does that tell me? That tells me there's some value in the running game and there's some value in the top 2 receivers. Now, Tet McMillan's ADP is fair, right? I think it's where it should be, just like Nico Collins. His ADP is where it should be. But he's still very draftable, and it's a nice little backdoor stack. Love the backdoor double stack of Young with Tet and Coker. Okay. And we talked about how I like Trevor Etienne Achane, even though he didn't play as much, and even though he doesn't quite have the same sort of receiving skill set that LaQuinn Allen has. There's not that many RB3s that get me excited. Etienne Achane is one of those guys. I think there is potential there for him to take a step forward at least. And then you've got, of course, Jonathan Brooks, who is a true bell cow back.
Drafted player. My most drafted
probably
player so
your
far.
most drafted, my most drafted. Like, people that know things are drafting this guy like crazy. So
and that's another one that the beat is going to ruin it for us soon. You talk about like these news stories that are coming out ruining the edges. We're a week or two away from a video coming out of Jonathan Brooks cutting on his surgically repaired knee and him shooting 5 rounds up draft board. So take him in every single draft you can now, because he's not going to be this cheap come August.
I'm already in pain thinking about it. Thinking about 2 things. Thinking about the spectacular catch caught on TikTok, Jalen Coker in the back of the end zone, something spectacular in shorts, and Jonathan Brooks. Fortunately, this is the Carolina Panthers are like the Cincinnati Bengals in that they don't really have a beat report. Nobody cares. Right. If this was New York, we would already be right. There's already 17 stories about how it's a run first offense.
There's one guy, and like even Carolina fans can't stand him. He's like an old school beat reporter that works for ESPN, and like every fan hates him. Yeah, like there's one beat reporter I can think about from Carolina, and that's it.
That's our saving grace. That's our saving grace on this, is that there just aren't a lot of people covering the Panthers. Thank God.
Mike Kay moved from the Eagles to the Panthers a couple of years ago. He's actually been doing great work. He was the one 2 years ago. I was talking with him and I said, "Hey, how's Jonathan Brooks looking coming off of the knee injury?" And he said, he's still got a ways to go. He goes, "If my eyes are telling me anything from training camp, it's to go out and draft Chuba Hubbard." So shout out to Mike Kay, who got me on the Chuba Hubbard train 2 years ago when nobody was thinking about Hubbard.
Okay, so apologies to Mike. You're out there. You exist. You're doing a great job. And if I can both apologize and ask a favor, shh about Jonathan Brooks, about Jalen Coker. Just give us a little more time, man. We're trying to get it all. We're trying to soak them all up. But you're right. Not for long. Not for long. Okay. A couple more questions. I'll get you out of here. I know you got a hard stop here. Real quick, rapid fire. Better RB3 for you, Sean Tucker or Jarquez Hunter?
The guy who has played in the NFL, Sean Tucker.
Okay. Sean Tucker is the right answer, but Jarquez Hunter is also a factor. The C word is being used with the Rams. And it's just, I like Gainwell just because he's got the skill set that I covet. And he was great and has flashed every time he's really gotten an opportunity. And he's super efficient. The problem is Bucky Irving a couple of years ago had one of the great, most efficient running back seasons. And I just can't forget that. Sean Tucker, size, speed, and fell in the draft for, he had a heart condition.
Right.
So when we talk about Nicholas Singleton, the reasons why a physical freak can potentially be available and be underrated for years. That's one of the reasons to get Sean Tucker. I think that Sean Tucker is the answer, but it also is a jumping off point for me to issue caution about Blake Corum. That, okay, so there is a Kyren Williams injury. If that happens, Jarquez Hunter is going to be a factor. So it's not just going to be 70% opportunity share for Blake Corum. I just want to make sure that the contingent value for Blake Corum is properly measured in the context that Jarquez Hunter is good. Like, he is basically Jonah Coleman. And that matters. Who's your truther?
Training camp riser last year. There was a lot of good talk about how good he looked in training camp, and then it just never really came to fruition in the season because Kyren Williams and Blake Corum were healthy all season.
Yeah, and what do you think is going to happen this offseason? You think he's going to show up to training camp this year as a second-year player and be bad? No.
Not be good? Right.
He's going to do the same thing, even better. He's going to fully acclimate to the league. So, yeah, be aware of Jarquez Hunter. That's my only note on this. And then I want to ask you, your truther, you're not dropping. The guy you're not dropping in Dynasty is
Jonathan Brooks. Is that too high? Is that
no. Like a guy that other people are dropping, but you're not.
I feel like I've done this every year I come on the show and we do this in the offseason.
You don't have a guy.
Kendra Miller. I just can't.
Oh, is it Kendra Miller?
Yeah.
Oh, mine's Devin Neal. There we go. I'll take Devin Neal. You take Kendra Miller, and then we'll see how it plays out. We'll play it out on the field, man. We'll play it out on the field with that depth chart. Okay, get you out of here. And you got to go. Bold prediction.
Brock Bowers sets the all-time record for targets to a tight end and leads the 2025 season in targets, not just tight ends, receivers, everybody. Brock Bowers, the season leader in targets this year.
It's important to me that all of our media be free, but it is you, the premium subscriber, with access to data analysis, the rankings, Dynasty Deluxe, DFS Dominator, the world-famous draft kit. You get that content and you make all of this possible. The free podcasts, articles, NFL draft content. So I must give a special thanks to all of our premium subscribers. You make all of this possible.